hour of Clay and Buck gets going right now. Thanks for being here with us. As we said yesterday, as we were talking about the Tyre Nichols case, we have to look at law enforcement. We have to look at the narrative around all this based on the facts and the data. We can't think of anybody better to help us do that right now than Heather. She is a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, contributing editor at City Journal, author of The War on Cops, and she just has a piece out now at The Spectator. Tyre, this is the title, Tyre Nichols and the New Black Cop White Supremacy. Always appreciate it.
Such a pleasure to be with you, Buck and Clay. Thank you.
So tell us, Heather, you know, this piece, you're getting right into it. We discussed this a bit on the show. 5 black cops beat a black man to death. All condemned it. It was excessive use of force. It's quite obvious from the video. And there were a lot of people, white supremacy in the media. What is this all about?
It's about the fact that racism is now an unfalsifiable proposition. The race industry is not going to ever cede ground. They have now got a new rule for racism, which is anything bad that happens to a black person is a function of racism, regardless of the intentions or race of the perpetrator. So they've got it covered. Of the beating now becoming a farce, given the reaction of Benjamin Crump, of the New York Times, of the race activists, of Joe Biden, eager as always to slot in his favorite narrative about blacks being right to fear for their lives every time they go outside, their daily fear and trauma. None of this is borne out. Here's the facts. The police are the saviors in the black community. They are not the oppressors. When the police black lives are taken by the dozens every single day. There are dozens of blacks killed in homicide. That's more than all white and Hispanic homicide victims combined, even though blacks are only 13% of the population. And the people doing those killings of blacks are overwhelmingly blacks. They are not the police. In 2022, there were 7 unarmed, allegedly fatal shootings. That's out of a homicide population. We don't know 2022 numbers yet, but in 2020 there were 10,000 blacks killed in homicide. There's 44 million blacks in the country. Compare that to 7 unarmed, allegedly unarmed blacks killed by the police. That is not the problem in the black community. Criminals are.
Heather, one of the conversations we had, first of all, thanks for coming on. You do fantastic work looking at the data and analyzing it from a policing perspective. One of the conversations Buck and I were having, and I think it's one that certainly the nation needs to have, is how difficult it is becoming to recruit police who want to be willing to do this job, given the amount of peril that they're under, the increasing numbers of police that have been killed in the past several years, but also the just absolute disrespect. How difficult is it becoming to recruit police, and how is that going to make their job that much more difficult, not only in terms of the people doing the job, but also in terms of the relationships that they have to develop?
Well, you're absolutely right to take this beyond just the recruitment and retention crisis, but let's look at that. It is an absolute catastrophe. I don't know of a single police department that is doing well at this point. Post-George Floyd, the narrative that became decibel level high after Michael Brown, phony narrative about hands up, don't shoot, and the Ferguson effect of cops depolicing and criminals getting emboldened. After George Floyd race riots, you had every mainstream institution in this country, banks, corporations, universities, press, all declaring that the criminal justice system was systemically racist. America was systemically racist, of course, but above all, it was the cops. And this is not an encouraging thing to hear if you're thinking about joining a police force. There's no other profession from day one on the job. The elite assumption is that you are a racist. So we have attrition at enormously high rates, an impossibility to recruit. And as you say, from an officer's perspective, when there are not enough people to help you out, you don't have backup. If you're an armed, violent, resisting suspect, suspect, there may be nobody available to call to help you out. That's going to make you less likely, quite appropriately, understandably, to engage in discretionary proactive policing. If you see somebody on a corner at 2 a.m. hitching up his waistband as if he has a gun, you don't have to make that stop because there hasn't been a crime yet. But if you're a good proactive cop trying to protect that community from yet another gang shooting, you should get out of your car and ask a few questions. But if you know that your department is way abusing overtime, is stretched, that there are no patrol cars available, you're going to drive on by because you don't want to get in a very lethal confrontation with somebody. And the problem is, well, we now have a perfect storm where at the same time that the pressure has been on for years to recruit on the basis of race, to have race trump. And what happens when that is the case and departments lower educational and cognitive standards and they lower the requirements of a clean criminal background check in order to broaden the pool of potentially qualifiable recruits, you get corruption scandals and you get more excessive force. But that will probably, now that we have the theme that, well, blacks are white supremacists, but the issue is black victims, even though we've now decided that black cops are racist too, I can guarantee you that the response to this terrible, terrible beating will be both depolicing and an increased push for diversity hiring.
We're speaking to Heather McDonald. I've got a piece that we've linked up at clayandbuck.com. Tyree Nichols and the New Black Cop White Supremacy. She also has a book coming out, When Race Trumps Merit, How the Pursuit of Equity Sacrifices Excellence, Destroys Beauty, and Threatens Lives. Heather, are we seeing, based on the response that is occurring in cities now, not in all, but in some, are Democrats at the point, because let's be honest, it's Democrats who run these cities, whether it's Memphis or LA or New York, are they at the point where they're starting to have to bow to the reality of facts when it comes to policing and move more toward a rational approach? Or have you just seen the activists continue to get their way? I mean, where's the momentum?
Well, after this beating, I hear in renewed calls for abolition. But I think the conservatives were wrong strategically. They put too much emphasis initially on defunding and the itself. There in fact were very few Democratic politicians who were actually calling for defunding or dismantling police departments. And Biden could rightly say, oh well, look at I've put funding in my for more cop hiring. At the same time that his rhetoric makes it virtually impossible that funding will be taken up for cop hiring because nobody wants to join a profession where the president tells you that you're preying on black children every single day. So I don't know. There's a lot of division, I know, in conservative ranks about how to read the midterm election. I, as a pessimist by nature, do not think that the midterm elections showed that the country is ready to say, you know what, the police are the solution, they're not the problem.
So we haven't suffered enough, basically, Heather. We haven't suffered enough. That's where we are.
Not enough.
Heather, I think this is not getting enough attention, and I'm sure that you know the latest numbers and the trend lines. Police are being murdered, killed on the job in massively increasing numbers over the last 4 years. How prevalent is that becoming, and what does the statistical data reflect? That not only are cops being disrespected more by citizens, that's leading directly to more cops dying on the job.
Oh, it certainly is. I mean, in last year there were 73 cops that were murdered. That was a massive jump. And when you do it on a per capita basis, looking at those 73 murdered cops, police force nationally of about under 700,000 officers, and you compare that to the number of unarmed blacks who were killed by cops. And traditionally, black males have made up 42% of all cop killers nationwide, even though they're 6% of the population. A police officer is 400 times as likely to be killed by a black male as an unarmed black is to be killed by a police officer. Arrest, and of course, every time you demonize the cops, as we're doing now, you're going to increase hatred, resentment, tensions in the community, and resisting arrest. And that puts officers' lives in danger. And when you delegitimate the policing profession and the criminal justice system more generally, as Biden did both before and after the release of the Tyree Nichols video, saying, well, you know, we have a criminal justice system that refuses to mete out fair treatment. Those words have very, very serious consequences. People approach interactions with hostility. They are less inclined to obey lawful orders. We could end virtually all cop killings tomorrow. That is, officer-involved killings when the officer shoots a civilian, if people complied with commands and did not resist arrest. Now, I'm sympathetic to Tyree Nichols taking off at this point, although we do not have the full tapes. Perhaps he was resisting arrest before, trying to grab a gun. This well may be true because there are parts of the videos we have not seen. But from what we see, I actually feel sorry for the guy, and I understand him taking off and running. But as a general matter, the cop tells you to do something, you follow command, and you will not be shot or roughed up, period.
I'm glad you're bringing that up, Heather, because that is what I tell my kids, and that's what I would encourage everybody out there listening who has kids and grandkids. Look, if you believe your constitutional rights are being violated by a police officer, you have time to challenge that in the court. Comply with their initial demands as best you can. Do not accelerate the intensity of that violence by not complying. I wish everyone in America would share that message with their kids and their grandkids. And I say kids and grandkids because by and large, young men are the ones that are getting in trouble for violent acts and are creating and acting violently, Heather. So I'm glad that you're pointing that out. Didn't you think that, based on what we've seen so far in the Nichols video, that it was actually far worse than the George Floyd video?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this was deliberate.
Yes.
And it was also, I mean, the tactics are just abysmal. These guys, it makes the Keystone Cops look like they're a, finely tuned corps de ballet with Baryshnikov or something. It is just atrocious. I don't know if these cops were from the start incapable of absorbing training or if they simply decent training in Memphis. They clearly need training in controlling stress. But yes, they are what appears. Again, we do not know the context. We do not know whether he was high on drugs. We don't even have a proper autopsy, but it appears to be gratuitous use of force. And Chauvin was stolid and impassive. There's many police officers who will tell you that the hold he was using was, in fact, legitimate under Minneapolis rules, but this was something far beyond that. And I've also had others tell me that it looks like they are all reluctant to get down on the ground with him and use, say, their need to restrain him, as we saw with Chauvin, and are standing over him and administering these completely feckless blows. Somebody has suggested that may also be one of the usual unintended consequences of our overreaction to the Chauvin killing, and maybe people are not willing to get down and use legitimate tactics and are instead resorting to the blows and the batons and the kicks.
Heather McDonald, keep up the fantastic work. We appreciate you giving the time to us today. Encourage everybody to check out her work. You can find more about Heather on clayandbuck.com. Heather, thank you so much.
Such an honor, Clay and Buck. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Look, winter storms causing a lot of disruptions all over the country right now. Certainly many of you out there listening, especially if you're in Texas or in the South, where winter storms massive disruptions in the flow of goods, but given the transportation crisis that we've seen under the Biden administration, given the population shortages for so many different products out there on the shelves, do you have food security? Do you have food insurance? We do in the Travis household. Each member of my house has 3 months of food that'll last up to 25 years in our house. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, 2,000 calories a day, thanks to My Patriot Supply. Wife was really excited when this arrived on the front doors, and I have taken care of my family's emergency food needs for years and years into the future. Have you? Probably got home insurance, car insurance, life insurance, so many different forms of insurance. Insurance can make a big difference, and you can get hooked up today at mypatriotsupply.com. Save $200 on your emergency food kits while you can. Kits are in stock. They ship fast and free. They arrive in the boxes, so nobody knows what you're getting, but you will, and you'll have food security. It can make a big difference. Go to mypatriotsupply.com. Join what my family has already done by taking care of your family's food insurance. Save $200 at mypatriotsupply.com.
Learn and laugh. Weekdays with Clay Travis and Buck Sexton.
Power Talk 1460 and FM 101.1.
If one of your goals this year is to do business with companies who share your values, then switch to Pure Talk for your cell phone service.
Pure Talk is proudly veteran-owned. They proudly employ a U.S.-based customer service team.
Their service kicks butt. It's on one of the largest networks with blazing fast data, talk, and text for just $30 a month.
That's probably half of what you're paying Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile.
You can keep your phone and your phone number and switch over in those 10 minutes.
Pure Talk has a first-month risk-free guarantee. Try it, and if you're not completely happy with your Pure Talk service, you'll get your money back.
Support a company who supports you. Dial pound 250, say Clay and Buck, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, dial pound 250 and say Clay and Buck and get 50% off your first month. Pure Talk is simply smarter wireless.
Hello, beautiful. I'm Amy Eric, founder of Madison Reed, a hair color company I named after my dog. I started Madison Reed to give you the most gorgeous hair color ingredients you can feel good about. Are you tired of drugstore hair color? Upgrade to salon quality hair color that nourishes the condition of your hair without any harsh odors. It's easily done at home, and we deliver it to your door. Plus, our hair color matching technology makes picking the right color easy, fast, and accurate. For a limited time, new clients get 50% off plus free shipping on your first online order. Visit madison-reed.com/offer. Take our online color quiz to find your perfect shade. That's madison-reed.com/offer. Try it. Love it. That's the beauty of Madison Reed.
Dancing crew, tip for two, nailed the final interview, game of blood, brand new blood. Come here. The more you want to do, the more we want to do. New COVID-19 boosters designed for recent Omicron variants are now available. Learn about eligibility and schedule a free updated booster today at vaccines.gov. Sponsored by Pfizer and BioNTech.
Imagine an island escape to relax on white sand beaches. Enjoy fun adventures like scuba diving and
You can bet $5 on the NBA and get